Here for the conclusion of the SG Tour Spotlight featuring Ryan Overture's Grixis Delver deck. Had a subpar 2-3 record, but to be honest with you, it was. I'll take a lot of blame for that. I made some little sloppy, loose mistakes there that seemed to keep adding up and costing me games potentially. So that's on me. I played pretty bad. Sorry about that. As for this Delver deck, it's still not something that I personally really like. I think the biggest issue, and I've tried a bunch of various Grixis decks, including low land counts with Jace Vryn's Prodigy, Delver of Secrets, tons and tons of different variations. And the main problem I've always had with decks like these is is basically the mana base. So you're caught in this weird spot where you have 20 lands, and you very frequently have to keep like 1 landers or 2 landers. And if you flood out, it's extremely devastating. Like your pound for pound card quality is not as good as traditional Grixis control, and you don't have as much catch up power. You don't have as many Kolaghan's commands. You don't have as many big threats. You're stuck drawing these like more reactive counter spells. Ryan in particular has tons of counter spells, which makes a lot of sense because it does support the best draws that you're capable of, which is just a turn 1 Delver, flip it, melee or remand something, and then kill something and spell snare something. Those kinds of draws are incredible, and that's the reason that you want to play this deck. But if your draw doesn't, pan out that way, then sometimes you flood. And a big issue with going towards a very high Thought Scour count and various velocity spells instead of just playing more lands is that you're stuck playing these cards in the early turns of the game, trying to hit the action that you need or the lands that you need, and those are turns that sometimes you just have to be interacting. You saw it in round 1 where I was playing against Affinity and got stuck on 1 land and wasn't able to deploy my hand and actually catch up in the game. And then even in the immediately following game, the second game, I drew 5 or 6 lands and wasn't able to compete. So that's a big issue I have with this deck conceptually. It also doesn't have Creeping Tar Pit as a means to mitigate the flood. So even though Grixis Control plays 22, 23, 24 lands, you do get to play somewhere between 2 and 3 Creeping Tar Pits, which allow you to get aggressive. But as far as the way Ryan's deck is constructed, I think it looks pretty good. Like I said, there are some issues with playing so many counterspells, but they're fantastic when you actually do get the best draws that your deck is capable of. I like him not going too heavy on Kolaghan's commands. You really do need to leverage your aggression, and Kolaghan's command's not at its best in a deck like this, even though it is a very powerful card that can actually let you catch up if you do fall behind. His use of Ancestral Visions in the sideboard makes a lot of sense to me, and I like it. It gives you a chance against, chance is aggressive, but it gives you, a very well-rounded game plan against decks like Jund and other grindy decks. We did get to play against Jund, and Ancestral Visions was good, but I probably screwed up a game and lost a game that I shouldn't have. But yeah, overall, this is kind of similar to things that we've seen over the last year, and there's certainly nothing wrong with this deck if you want to attack with some Delver of Secrets and cast some Mana Leaks, but not particularly my cup of tea. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys.